Hey, this is Alpha. Today I'm excited to talk about local agents. This is a new trend that we have seen come into the space as of late last year, early this year. This is a trend that has recently been made very popular by projects like Claude-bot, Moldbot, and now OpenClaw. Now, if you've been in the space, you may have heard of this project. They, as of today, February the 2nd, have over 150,000 GitHub stars, and the project is growing very quickly. But local agents is nothing more than owning the models and owning the hardware where those models run. Now, OpenClaw, a project which is aiming to be your personal AI assistant or AI agent, is written in TypeScript that, of course, compiles to JavaScript. They have some Swift and Kotlin for macOS flavor, but this is a great project to study to see why open models are doing very well. So let's break this down. First of all, they allow you to bring your own models. In this case, OpenClaw gives you the configuration and the tooling to have your own models. They allow subscriptions through open authentication or through API keys. Pick your favorite. And you introduce your own runtime. In this case, they're using Node. And you simply have it hosted on your own hardware. Now, you're not required, of course. You can use something like Mac Mini, as I show you here, but you can run it on Amazon, Google, Microsoft, or any other vendor that allows you to self-host. Now, the project is open source, as I showed you, which means you have control on when you do host it, how you expose your hardware to the internet, and so on and so forth. But the pieces that I think are very important, for me at least, to reflect on is why it's doing very well in 2026. Now, last year we saw models running on your own hardware, including Mac Minis. So what is the new alpha? You have the ability to now talk to those agents, for those agents to run persistently 24/7 on your own hardware, and you have the ability to talk to them in your own way, on your own terms. Now, the OpenClaw team supports the major messaging providers like iMessage, Telegram, WhatsApp. They include also Discord, Slack, or any other platform you prefer. So you have a new way of communicating. You're no longer bound to the IDE, to the VS Code, to the macOS app to run these models on your own hardware. I think that is definitely a nice to have piece that unlocks more people using these models on their own terms. Now, the project started as Claude-bot. They moved to Moldbot and now OpenClaw. So feel free to read more about their rebrand. But for the most part, their slogan, I think, is important to reflect on. It is that AI that actually does things. So if I open up Moldbot, OpenClaw rather, and I see there's a slogan, AI that actually does things. Very important that this AI runs persistently and it understands what you want and it can actually execute tasks on your behalf. So they're combining quite a few flavors of execution, including workflows or automations to run on your behalf. And so that's nice to have. But for the most part, they talk about how this agent can clear your inbox. That means it has to have access to your inbox in the first place, like Gmail, can send emails on your behalf. Of course, if it's running on your Mac Mini and it can access your Gmail, you can have this automation or workflow trigger at 3 a.m. while you sleep. You can manage your calendar all through either API keys or the Moldbot, rather OpenClaw, can use your own hardware to spin up your own browser, which means it can control your own account. So this is the fallback for platforms that do not support API keys. The OpenClaw can actually use your own browser. It can do tasks on your behalf, and as I mentioned, it can run on your own chat hardware. So one command to install, copy this, and you are done right there. And you simply now have that open agent or local agent running on your own machine. You can chat with it. It has a memory piece built into it, and I'll show you what the file structure looks like. You have browser control. This is where you don't have the ability to log in with an API key. You can simply log in through browser automation. Full access control. If you give it access to your Mac Mini, do be aware there are security risks involved, and I've disclosed actually quite a few of the security risks for this project on my blog post, and I'll show you what that looks like. And of course, they tapped into the plugin and skill ecosystem, which a lot of companies like OpenAI and Anthropic have already gone down the path. There's their messaging platforms, so quite convenient to how you communicate, and of course they have documentation. Now, I'm not affiliated with this project, but I bring it to your attention because this project set the local agents on the map. What else are they doing here? Well, really, they're trying to close the gap between private and local. Keep in mind, they're not private models. Their models can run on Anthropic infrastructure, on OpenAI infrastructure. And in fact, they suggest, I believe it was Opus 4.5, which means you are paying Anthropic money to run the model behind this local agent. Beyond that, local, of course, does not mean isolated. And they do have quite convenient local storage for the entire execution. That includes the chat conversations between yourself and the response of the model, including the Anthropic model, for example. The memory files that are stored, configuration. This is a great way to, by the way, deal with memory. You store it locally. You have authentication handled, auth authentication that, of course, is platforms like Anthropic and OpenAI. Channels, that's how you can communicate with it. You have a workspace, and you can give it different types of identities through agents file, through a soul or constitution, tooling, etc. You have the gateway, and you have even the ability for it to store a database through a vector database. It's a great way to go about it. Of course, feel free to read more about this, but what are the downsides of this? First of all, the token problem. Numerous developers have reported, myself included, that it's very easy to burn tokens on this. The reason is because these models, specifically projects like OpenClaw, are not optimized for token efficiency. And so you can easily spend hundreds of dollars in several days of token use alone. So if you do hook it up to your OAuth, keep that in mind, as well as the API keys. It's very fast to burn through it. Exception, of course, is if you have your own local models running as opposed to third-party models, you can get around that. So if you, for example, self-host Kimi K2.5 or any of the existing open source models yourself on your own hardware, you then don't have this problem. But now you have a different problem, but that's for another post. Account risk, of course, is people are reporting, especially those who use subscription models, that their account can get hacked. Not hacked, but reported by the CLI providers or the model providers because they're not using them in the right way. Oftentimes, when you have a solution like OpenClaw or other projects, they hide the fact that they are OpenClaw and they're trying to pretend to be the Anthropic client when communicating to the Anthropic API. But that's another topic for another discussion. You have a security paradox, of course. You need to sandbox everything. Permissions by default are very permissive. So you do need to be very, very cautious and attentive when using these types of solutions, because the security risks are incredible. And I've seen dozens of posts, articles, and security breakdowns of the vulnerabilities of platforms like OpenClaw, so keep that in mind. Now, they do have a nice convenient CLI, which you can run, and if you simply copy and paste, you can run that on your own machine where you're running the multi-bot, and it can do a self-audit. Great way, but it's not going to catch all issues. I talk about what the audit can catch and what it cannot. And of course, I did my own audit as an agentic expert. I broke down what are the vulnerabilities of the project as I saw them. Keep in mind, I did this analysis on the 28th, and by this moment, they may or may not be patched, but I do disclose them. I talk about the vulnerability. I talk about where you can find it. Just keep in mind that my analysis dated back to the 28th. And if you are on the OpenClaw team, I encourage you to read over my analysis and verify the security issues that I found yourself. I'm simply disclosing them on my post here. And of course, you can read more about other people's analysis, including Jameson, who did a great breakdown. You have a few elements that are quite convenient for OpenClaw, including dynamic skills, the ability of agents to create their own skills, the ability to schedule tasks, that the automations workflow I mentioned, and of course, persistent messaging on the platforms you already use, including WhatsApp. Now, is this a new project? No. Have others have been doing something similar? Absolutely. I'm going to show you EXO, one of my favorite projects. I'm also not affiliated, but I love what they're doing. They are close to 40,000 stars as of February 2nd today. And what they do is they give you a way to parallelize or run your inference on multiple hardware. This is how you can actually run on multiple Mac Studios, Mac Minis, in order for you to achieve what you're looking for. So feel free to check that out. And this is how you can buy multiple Mac Minis, connect them together in a chain, and you can actually run your own local hardware, including DeepSeek, Keys, or any other model yourself. Of course, feel free to read the entire post here to learn more about the shift for local agents. But I just wanted to emphasize here that OpenClaw is not the first release we've seen. It's not the last. It is the first step. So keep that in mind. I am excited to do more videos like this. If you like what you see and want to see more videos from myself, if you're looking to take your projects, your companies to the next level, feel free to subscribe. I post regularly and I appreciate you being here. Thanks for your time.